Senior High School On-Air Academy. Unstoppable! Delivering you quality education amidst pandemic.
To defer school opening to October 5.
Unstoppable!
Giving you accessible learning platform anytime, anywhere.
Ng klase, whatever form it is.
Comprehensible!
Buckle up and get yourself ready.
I will repeat, then you will do it later on.
Accurate!
The sphere that includes all living
Today,
things.
we will be talking about rational functions.
Simplify.
This is Jaw speaking. How may I help you?
This is ZEP School Radio's Senior High School On-Air
On-Air
Academy. And now, here's your new episode for Earth Terrific Saya!
Your guide in the subject, Earth and Life Science. Earth Terrific Saya!
Earth Terrific Saya!
Good day, students! This is your school on the air for Earth and Life Science that will teach and guide you on all the information about our planet Earth. We are very pleased that you are continuing your studies with us by listening to your radio. I am your teacher, Jessa, your teacher for Earth and Life Science. I hope that everyone is ready. You must find a comfortable place with good ventilation and with no distractions for you to fully listen to our on-air discussion. At this point in time, I want you to bring out your learning kits on our lesson about folding and faulting and how our stratified rocks formed. I repeat, our lesson for today is all about folding and faulting and how our stratified rocks formed. Now, bring out your kits. Before we begin our lesson for today, let's have a brief recap of the lesson that we tackled on our last discussion. We first discussed where the Earth's internal heat comes from. So, where does the Earth's internal heat comes from? That's right, I knew you listened last time. So, it can be from primordial heat. That is the internal heat energy that gradually gathered together by means of dispersion or radioactive heat, which is generated by radioactive decay or spontaneous nuclear disintegration.
Yeah!
We also talked about magma and how it is formed. Can you tell me, what is a magma? Yes, very good. Now tell me, what are the different ways for a magma to form? Nice! You learned very well. Magma are formed through decompression, melting, transfer of heat, and flux melting.
Yeah!
Rocks undergo metamorphism for it to become metamorphic rock. What are the agents of metamorphism? Perfect! The agents of metamorphism are temperature and pressure and stress. You surely are studying a lot.
Yeah!
Looks like you have a good memory on the topic that we discussed last time. Let's check now your quiz. Item number 1 is A. 1 is A. Item 2 is A. 2 is A. Number 3, letter D. 3 is D. For item 4, A. 4 is A. And number 5 is D. Number 5 is D. Did you get all the correct answers? Congratulations! You really did well in your quiz. We will have another short quiz later after our discussion. Don't worry, I know that you are going to answer them correctly if you listen attentively during our on-air discussion. If you need to go to the bathroom or attend to any personal necessities, this is now the time to go. For any minute now, we will start our new lesson. For now, let's have this infomercial.
Tayo na sa Radyo Eskwela. Tayo na!
Naku, ang lakas na ng hangin. Paparating na ata talaga ang bagyo. Mabuti na lang, nakita ko ang listahan ng mga dapat ihanda kanina sa Facebook ng DepEd. Ito ay ang tubig, pagkain, ID card, mahalagang dokumento, flashlight at baterya, posporo at lighter, first aid kit, kutsilyo, radyo, kumot, banig, lubid, gamit panligo, at ilang mga damit. Tawagin man kami para sa agarang paglikas, handang-handa kami.
Maging handa sa anumang sakuna. Isang paalala mula sa kagawaran ng edukasyon at ng himpilang ito.
I'm back, and I guess we are now ready for our next lesson. Are you ready? That's good. Today, we are going to discuss about the folding and faulting and how are stratified rocks formed. I hope that by the end of our lesson, you will be able to know and classify the different rocks. Are you ready? Bring out your notebook and ballpen, for we are about to start our lesson. The Earth's surface has been continually deformed, meaning what you might see today may not be present for the past 1,000 or million years after. This deformation is the result of forces that are strong enough to move ocean sediments to an elevation many thousand meters above sea level. Look at your surroundings. Have you ever wondered how mountains and other geologic structures are formed? Each of these landforms formed from the constant movement of the Earth's crust. Let's now discuss the processes of folding and faulting. Do you remember the plate tectonic theory? Yes, that's right. It proposes that the Earth's lithosphere consists of large and small segments called plates. These plates float above the asthenosphere and move. This movement of plates is brought about by the interaction of great forces that has resulted in the formation of various surface features of the Earth. Although solid, the Earth's crust may be pushed, pulled, or squeezed out of shape by great forces acting on it over long periods of time, thus leading to deformation. Deformation refers to the change in original shape and size of a rock. The deformation is caused by tectonic forces. When they are subjected to stress or tectonic forces, they begin to deform, and they deform by folding or faulting. I repeat, when the plate moves, the rocks are subjected to stress and they deform by either folding or faulting. Let's first discuss folding. Folding is the type of earth movement resulting from the compression of rock strata. When a part of the crust is pushed from opposite direction, compressional forces act on it. Push forces at opposite ends of a plate to deform it. The crust crumples or wrinkles, resulting in the thickening or folding. As the crust is crumpled, the rock strata become tilted, producing an upward and downward bends. This process is called folding. To have a good visualization on how fold occurs, get a piece of paper. Do you have the piece of paper with you now? Okay, now hold the paper up by placing your hands on each end of the paper. Then, push both sides towards each other. What happens? Yes, it deforms and forms a fold. That is also how fold happens in rock layers. The materials of the crust are dense and rigid, but under enormous heat and intense pressure, they soften and can be deformed. Mountain ranges are formed by folding. The Cordillera and the Sierra Madre here in Luzon are examples of folded mountains. The Himalayas, where the Mount Everest is located, were formed in the same manner. There are several types of folds. We have monocline, anticline, and synclines. The monocline is a simple bend in rock layers so that they are no longer horizontal. It is a one-sided slope connecting two horizontal or gently inclined strata. Next type is the anticline. Anticline are folded rocks that arc upward and dip away from the center of the fold. Anticline is the upward curve of the fold. The anticlines usually form mountains, hills, or ridges. Last type of fold is the syncline. Syncline is a fold that bends downward, causing the youngest rock to be at the center and the oldest are on the outside. Syncline is the downward curve of the fold. The syncline forms valleys. So that is folding, the type of earth movement resulting from the compression of rock strata where a part of the crust is pushed from opposite direction that causes the crust to crumple or wrinkles. As the crust is crumpled, the rock strata become tilted, producing an upward and downward bends, and folding has three types: the monocline, which is a gently inclined strata, the anticline, which is the upward curve, and the syncline, which is the downward curve. Now, let's have folding. Folding is the fracturing and displacement of brittle rock strata along a fold plane. When the rock masses of the crust are pulled apart, the crust is acted upon by a tensional force, producing cracks or breaks on the crust. Pull forces at opposite ends of a plate deform it, resulting in sinking, thinning, and faulting. The tensional force may go beyond the elastic limit of the crust that it yields to the stress by breaking. This process is called faulting. In this case, the layers of rock slide and slip against each other along the breaks. Faulting leads to formation of plateau and rift valleys. There are three types of faults, namely the normal fault, reverse fault, and strike-slip fault. The normal fault forms when the hanging wall moves down relative to the footwall block, while the reverse fault is the opposite of normal fault, wherein the hanging wall moves up relative to the footwall block. And lastly, the strike-slip fault. It occurs when the walls move sideways, not up or down. Once again, faulting is the fracturing and displacement of brittle rock along a fault plane, and it causes rocks to break. And there are 3 types of faults: the normal fault, reverse fault, and strike-slip fault. So, we've discussed tectonic processes called the folding and faulting that are caused by the movement of the tectonic plates. Let's proceed now to our next topic on how layers of rocks are stratified. Rocks are formed. But first, let me ask you, what are the 3 types of rocks? Very good! Among the 3 types of rocks, what do you think is related to stratified rocks? Yes, that's right. It is sedimentary rocks because it is made up of layer of sediments. Sedimentary rocks are formed from the compaction of sediments. Sediments are solid fragments of organic or inorganic materials from weathered and eroded pre-existing rocks and living matters. These sediments are rocks that are broken down to small pieces physically or chemically for a long period of time. For a long period of time, these sediments accumulate and pile up, and as years and years pass, these sediments gather on top of each other and form layers. Rock layers are also called strata. Strata or layers range from several millimeters to many meters in thickness and vary greatly in shape. Strata may range from the thin sheets that cover many square kilometers to thick lens-like bodies that extend only a few meters laterally. Stratification in sedimentary rocks may result from changes in texture or composition during deposition. It also may result from pauses in deposition that allows the older deposits to undergo changes before additional sediments cover them. A sequence in strata, therefore, may appear as alterations of coarse and fine particles, as a series of color changes resulting from differences in mineral composition, or merely layers of similar aspects separated by distinct planes of parting. No direct relationship exists between the thickness and extent of strata and the rate of deposition or the time represented. The most common cause of stratification is variation in the transporting ability of the depositing agent. Water and wind sort sediments according to size, weight, and shape of particles, and these sediments settle in layers of relative homogeneity. Differences in sediment composition result from different sources, and variation in sediment brought about by change in agents of deposition also lead to stratification. Stratification in volcanic rocks differs in sedimentary rocks. Fragmental volcanic material becomes sorted in flight under the influence of gravity, particle size, and wind. Falling to the ground, it may form well-sorted layers. Stratification also may result from successive flows of liquid lava or alternations between flows and ash falls. Stratification leads to formation of stratified rocks. That means stratified rocks are layered earth materials that are formed by deposition, compaction, and consolidation of sediments and developed layers or strata in them. Limestone, shale, and sandstone are examples of stratified rocks. Now you know how layers of rocks are formed. These layers of rock or stratified rock formed gradually and takes a long time to form. Did you enjoy our discussion for today? Of course you did, and we've learned a lot today. Now let's have a brief review on our lesson. Earlier, We discussed that through the movement of the tectonic plates, these forces cause deformation on rock strata and lead to either folding or faulting. We discussed that folding is a type of earth movement resulting from the compression of rock strata where a part of the crust is pushed from opposite direction that causes the crust to crumple or wrinkles, resulting in the thickening or folding. The other deformation is the faulting, which is the fracturing and displacement of brittle rock strata along a fault plane, and it causes rocks to break. The next topic we discussed is how layers of rock are formed. We learned that sediments are deposited and through time it is compacted and consolidated. They developed layers or strata in them, and it is known as stratified rocks.
Tayo na, saradong eskwela. Tayo na! Ilang buwan nang lumipas, 1,000 oras nakalipas, akala ay natutulog, walang ginagawa sa sulok. Mga bata ay excited, kaya modalities ay implemented, para proper education ay mag-get sa Sdo Isabela. Walang batang maiiwan, we will learn as one, 'cause in education there is fun. Ang Sdo Isabela ay handang-handa na sa edukasyon sa bagong normal. Handang isip, handa bukas. Isang paalala mula sa Kagawaran ng Edukasyon at ng himpilang ito.
We are now done with our lesson for today. It is now time for us to assess if you have really understood our lesson about folding and faulting. Are you ready? Close now your notes and listen carefully. You're going to answer 5-item multiple choice type of questions. Write the letter of your answer in capital letters. This is going to be easy for you if you have listened carefully during the discussion. I'm going to read the questions and choices twice, so you better listen carefully, alright? Okay, let's start. For the first question, which type of earth movement forms cracks or fractures on the rocks? A. Tension. B. Folding. C. Faulting. D. Compression. Which type of earth movement that forms cracks or fractures on the rocks? A. Tension. B. Folding. C. Faulting. D. Compression. Here's the second question. Another type of earth movement resulting from the compression of rock. A. Tension. B. Folding. C. Faulting. D. Compression. Another type of earth movement resulting from the compression of rock. A. Tension. B. Folding. C. Faulting. D. Compression. Here's the third question. What do you call the upward fold of the rock? A. Monocline. B. Syncline. C. Anticline. D. Overturned. What do you call the upward fold of the rock? A. Monocline. B. Syncline. C. Anticline. D. Overturned. Fourth question. Which type of fault is observed where the hanging wall is displaced upward relative to the footwall? A. Normal fault. B. Reverse fault. C. Strike slip fault. D. Monocline. Which type of fault is observed when the hanging wall is displaced upward relative to the footwall? A. Normal fault. B. Reverse fault. C. Strike slip fault. D. Monocline. For the fifth and final question, what do you call the layered earth material which are formed by deposition, compaction, and consolidation of sediments and has developed strata in them? A. Metamorphic rock. B. Bedrock. C. Igneous rock. D. Stratified rock. What do you call the layered earth material which are formed by deposition, compaction, and consolidation of sediments and has developed strata in them? A. Metamorphic rock. B. Bedrock. C. Igneous rock. D. Stratified rock. So that ends our short quiz. Have you answered all the questions? Alright, we'll check that on our next episode. Another fruitful discussion has ended. If you still have questions and query about the topic we discussed, your subject teachers are willing to answer them. Just reach them out through mobile phones and other social media platforms. They are much willing to answer your questions. The script for this episode was written by Sir Andy Kalamkam from Ranyag High School. Also, we acknowledge the whole RBI production team for making this episode successful. Until next time, I am Teacher Jessa. Always remember to study hard for your success in the future. Goodbye!
Patuloy ang edukasyon para sa ating henerasyon.
Sa daan ng pagkatuto ay walang may iwan.
Kaya halina sa Radyo Eskwela!
Uy, psst, Benjo, ML tayo.
Hep, hep, hep! Anong ML na naman yung naririnig ko, Raul, ha? Buong araw akong nagbenta ng gulay at karne sa palengke. Pagod na pagod ako. Ang sakit-sakit ng mga kasukasuhan ko tapos mag-ML ka lang? Ano bang mapapala mo sa mga online games na yan, ha? Sige nga, magpaliwanag ka.
Nay, relax. Ang ML po na sinasabi ko ay modular learning. Ito po kasi yung gawin ng pagkatuto na inadapt ng paaralan namin. Sa pamamaraan pong ito, sasagot kami ng mga self-learning modules. Mga printed materials po ito, Nay. Para bang may guro na nagtuturo pa rin sa amin. Kawili-wili rin po ang mga gawain na kapaloob dito. Dahil na rin sa mga iba't ibang estratehiya na ginamit ng mga nagsulat. Yun po, Nay, ang ML.
Ah, ML baka mo, anak.
Magpapatuloy ang pag-aaral, magpapatuloy ang pagkatuto. Isang paalala mula sa impilang ito at ng kagawaran ng edukasyon.
Halina't matuto, gamit ang ating radyo. Pakinggan at unawain, aralin na ituturo. Patuloy ang edukasyon para sa ating henerasyon. Sa daan ng pagkatuto ay walang maiiwan. Kaya halina sa Radyo Eskwela.
O anak, bakit hindi mo ginagalaw ang pagkain mo? Inay, ayoko po ng ulam. Ang gusto ko po sana ay chicken joy at hotdog, kagaya ng mga kalaro ko. Hindi mo ba alam anak na ang mga pagkain iyan ay hindi sapat ang sustansyang kailangan ng iyong katawan? Kailangan mo ding kumain ng gulay at prutas dahil ang mga ito ay nagbibigay ng iba't ibang bitamina upang lumakas ang iyong resistensya. Ganun po ba, Nay? Sige po, kakainin ko na po ang aking pagkain. Nang sa ganun, ay lumakas po ang aking katawan at malayo sa sakit. Isang paalala mula sa kagawaran ng edukasyon at ng himpilang ito.